Hello, everybody. Welcome to our day 12, our New News show of getting through the holidays. Welcome 2017. Welcome, everybody here listening to Roger and I. My name is Jona bryndis, and far away and very close is.
Hi, everybody. I'm Roger Schwartz. I'm a trans coach here at transCODES. I bring a background and focus of recovery from addictions and dependencies of all sorts. Glad to have you all here.
Before we start, this is like a really cool energy that's coming in through a new year, even though it's mainly just something we make up in our minds. But before we get started, I want to send out my gratitude to all of you who've been so loyal here, who've been coming to every show every day. We had more listeners, to all the wonderful emails that we received, what these shows have meant for you throughout these last 12 days. All right, so this is what runs us, okay? This is what motivates us. Thank you so much for giving back. All right, that's really important to us. We've had this is me and this is Roger. Roger, is 2017 going to be the year for you of skydiving?
Uh, I sort of went skydiving today.
Okay, let's talk about that here in a minute, all right? Because I think a lot
Okay.
of listeners will be interested in that because there are some things that are coming up here for many of us. Of course, the objective, we talked about this, is to share and ask questions, but a lot of times it's really about sort of unraveling, reframing, and recontextualizing things, and this is what we're doing here, okay? So today, um, we want to sort of recap a little bit. So the last 11 days, we went through pretty cool topics here in this transCODES Live podcast. And we talked about all different kinds of aspects of energetic sensitivity, of really deep stuff. We could sometimes only scratch the surface, of course, because we had the limitation, of this being just 1 hour, but there was some really, really cool information in this. And if you're listening to this for the first time, I would really recommend to listen to the recordings if you have the time. Listen to it while you're stuck in traffic or something like that, because there are some real treasures in that. At the beginning of every show, we've been talking about collective energies. What does that mean? Current collective energies means outer energies and how they affect us. Is there anything anybody would like to share as far as like today is concerned? I mean, there's listeners from all over the world. So for some of you, this is already January the 2nd, but for the majority, I think it's still January the 1st. So the first day of the year. What is your first impression of this year? How did your year start? Does anybody want to share? Roger, thank you to share.
Oh, that's for me?
Well, that's your because
Yes.
you know how this goes. People need a little time to unwind and
Yes.
to think about that. But
Well,
what was
I've been in a situation for a couple of years with my work that I knew I was going to have to change. I work for a very small company. I'm a manager, and my boss is away a lot, so I have a lot of responsibility. And he's quite dependent upon me, but I've been wanting to expand and make space for more energy work. But of course, there were fears. I've had most of my life concerned with how people would judge me or what they think about me, and so I often avoid those kinds of situations where somebody might be disappointed in me or something.
that's
So,
normal for all of us, of course. We don't want to
yeah,
disappoint, especially if there's like a long-term relationship there. Like the
right.
company between you and your boss. That's understandable.
I've been there over 15 years, so um, anyway, I needed to open up some space, and I sent him an email today telling him what I needed from him. I haven't heard back yet. I won't know if I'll have a job Wednesday when I go back, but I've already, set things in motion, and I've had to focus today on staying, pulling back into the moment because I've been pulled out into what might happen occasionally. Nothing like what I expected though, and I'm just trusting that things are going to open up. I basically told them if it didn't, I wouldn't be able to continue there. So,
So what led to this decision? What was the insight behind that made you do a step that took a lot of courage?
well, it was just building inner turmoil. The job, the responsibilities kept increasing, and it was just it's a in a construction industry, and it's such an overload of information. So I have to take on more projects, and for the last 6 months or a year, the projects we've had have been somewhat challenging. So it just got overwhelming, and
Consuming?
yeah, it was tearing me up. I mean, it was draining. I would go through quite long periods where I would deal with it quite well, and I just let everything flow through me. That comes from the practice being in the heart. Once you learn to stay in faster frequencies, you can allow a lot of that stuff just to go through. But over time and increasing responsibilities, it just started wearing on me, and it just doesn't go away. It's something you have to deal with eventually to come to peace again inside. So, and
So
it's interesting. Go ahead.
it's kind of like you applied what we talked about, I think on our fourth day, identifying sort of the daily energetic dream that we have, like things that we have
Yes.
that or routine or that we don't even question sometimes, but over time they become energy draining and make it really difficult to hold our own energy. So you applied that today. That's a
Yes, I applied it, and
that
I immediately felt relief. I went to bed last night, and I started dozing off, and I woke right up, and it's like I have to do this. But I had already had my computer shut off, so I got up and walked around a little bit, and I went back to bed. First thing this morning, I got up and I wrote the email, and I felt relief. I didn't have any difficulty writing it. I knew it was the right thing to do, and it's already, stabilized. Um,
so you were totally in your heart when you did that. You were totally
yes,
with it.
I
You
just
know,
laid everything out, and I apologize for sending it out on the first day of the new year, but I told them I wanted to give them some time I wanted to get it all written out and give them some time to think about it before we talked on Wednesday.
so you
Um,
had a pretty cool start into the new year. He stood up for things, values that are
yes.
important to you, needs that you have,
Hmm.
and you risked something. You risked, what did you risk? Like the comfort of safety, the comfort of family.
Security, yes. I mean, like I say, I don't know. He may say, no, it's not going to work out, and you might as well start looking for something else. I have no idea what the outcome is going to be, but I'm not concerned about it.
How do you
I,
deal with not knowing what the outcome is?
it's trust I've come to through doing the energy work, basically through my heart connection.
Okay.
Uh, that's a big thing for me now. Very important in my life.
So, what is it that you have to, like, personally, when you have to trust, what is it that you have to overcome in order to be able to trust? Can you
Tip,
pinpoint that?
tip. Well, I mean, down at the root of it all, it's like a fear of death. But I have a different perspective now, and beyond just being I look at this experience in 3D more like a movie, like a
Mhm.
short, temporary short vacation. So I know it's always in my mind that I'm infinite and eternal soul. That takes a lot of the pressure off of things. It doesn't put me in a place where I just say nothing matters, but it lightens the load a lot for me. And I just have a trust that everything's going to come to me as I need it, because I look back through my life and it always has. I mean, I'm still here today in the physical. I've had worry after worry throughout my life, fears, loads of fears. I would always project, it was always the worst outcome. And most, probably 99% of my fears, once I face them, they never come out the way I thought. You know, I can paint such nasty pictures in my head.
Right. So what you really had to overcome to get into this place of courage and trust was you had to overcome these nasty pictures and you had these
Yeah,
negative thoughts or yeah, pictures, you know, like however it comes in. So that kind of like what comes in through the doubt and the negativity that is in you.
yeah, the inner voices, the inner artist, you know, it creates worst case scenario all the time. So that's uh, the heart being in the heart allows those things just to flow through, and uh, you learn to give very little significance to most of your thoughts beyond the ones that are needed for your daily survival, to meet your needs and all. You know, those ones matter, but most of our thoughts are just looping and they're flying around in the entire matrix or the collective,
Yeah.
and you just pick up on them anyway.
Right.
There's not many of them that are unique.
Less than half of them are not even ours anyway.
Yeah, right.
That's cool, Roger. Wonderful a role model, wonderful example that you're setting there. I
Thank you.
could feel this too today. I could feel this surge of energy within myself. Of course, we had lots of energy sessions here the last days, the last weeks, and today was a sort of a New Year's manifestation session that was really opening and very beautiful. Those kind of things help. They help to support our energetic alignment. And we talk about this here in a little bit, but um, I think the important thing to understand is that the new year is really not about resolutions. It's about moving forward. It's about moving into the direction of what is more true to us, of what makes us more real, creating better conditions, the things that we talked about yesterday. And uh, uh, is there anyone who had some new surge of energy today as well? Yes, okay, so some people did. All right. And
Cool.
sometimes it's just internally, you know, sometimes it's just like, yes, you know, I'm doing this and nobody's going to hold me away from this. Or making one step. My recommendation here, as far as like handling, dealing with new energies in the new year, don't get wrapped up in resolutions, okay? Because they create sort of a cognitive dissonance. We talked about dissonances yesterday in day 11. They keep reminding us on things that we don't have yet. You know, work your way the other way around. Work your way in baby steps if you have to, but keep moving forward. As long as you maintain a constant forward movement, all right, and even if it's just minute, all right, you're going to be able to trust in yourself more, and there'll be a positive feedback loop between what you see, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive the world, and how that translates inside of you. Energetically spoken, you're maintaining a higher vibrational stance. All right. So we can all go in fear. We can all go into uncertainty, into anger and frustration and so forth. That's no that's no challenge, you know, to go there. The challenge is to shift out of that again, to notice it as fast as we can, and to shift out of it again as fast as we can, and to maintain the inner connection that we have with ourselves, with our own truth, and and follow through on it. That is what makes us strong as energetic beings, as persons, as relationship partners, as parents, as co-workers, as leaders in all areas of our life. So if you want to share, just chime in here, raise your hand, or type. You're sharing, things that are coming in for you already for this new year. I want to go ahead and summarize a little bit what we have been discussing here over the last 11 days. All right. On the first day, we talked about the solstice energy, the winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern hemisphere, and what that even means, what the cycles of nature mean, and we talked about what collective energies are and how outer energies actually affect our energy. And since this is a show here that's mainly addressing people who are energetically sensitive and who are empathetic to begin with, this is a very important discussion, all right? Because a lot of what we are experiencing is not necessarily just our own. So it's very important to see that we are all connected here. And I explained why I write energy updates and so forth, because it helps to empower us to see that, not all the things that we go through is really just ours, and we're not alone with that. On the second day, we talked about the basics of making healthy choices. What is a healthy choice, and how does that apply energetically? Okay, what is a good choice energetically? But of course, we kind of have an idea of what's a healthy choice as far as, like, say, food choices and so forth is concerned. But when it comes to thoughts, to emotions, and activities, behaviors, a lot of people are actually at a loss there, and have a hard time discerning what's healthy for them and what's not. So discernment here on the second day was a big topic. On the third day, we talked about how important it is to assess our own energies, to know where we're at. Remember, we talked about this the first time you got you saw this chart here. Where am I? Is my energy contracted, or is my energy expanded? Am I on an upward spiral, or am I on a downward spiral? Very often, this is as obvious as it seems, the hardest part. So assessing our own energies is a very important aspect of assessing the quality of our choices. If I make choices out of fear, then the energetic quality and the energetic power of this choice or this decision is not very high, and it bears in it a downward spiral. So, Roger, apply to your example, for instance, not speaking up for my own needs or for my own boundaries, for that matter. A lot of people have issues with boundaries, expressing boundaries out of fear.
Yeah, that's what I was avoiding it because of, and it was taking me down lower.
Yeah, because it's not going to lead to here. It's not going to lead to a happy life. It's going to lead to more pain.
Right.
And eventually guilt. And that there's a very sort of negative or toxic cycle there involved.
Well, it reminds me of back when I used to drink a lot, and before I began recovery, it takes you to a place where you just give up, and you feel like nothing's ever going to work out for you, so you lose all your motivation.
When you're in that state, nothing is working out.
Right. But the fear will bring you back even farther to where, you won't apply anything anymore. You'll just give up trying to change.
Right. So that's why it's so important to assess where we're at, because when we are, like, say, in these very low states here in pain and guilt, shame, regret, where we feel kind of damned and lost, we have very little energy to even make change.
All right, you continually lose it. If you're in fear all the time, it just drains you and drains you and drains you. You have no time to recover.
And one of the hardest things about assessing our own energy is that, like I said, even though sometimes it's really obvious, that we are sort of in a negative cycle, or that we are in a contractive state, or a lower vibratory state, if you will, is familiarity. Familiarity is one of our biggest enemies. Just because something feels normal doesn't make it all right. Some of us have been raised or have lived a life in circumstances that are not healthy for us, and not necessarily out of our own doing, maybe due to karmic aspects that we brought into this life, or just simply circumstances, with our parents or whatever. And we got so used to pain, we got so used to fear or to anger that we don't even question it. All right? We have to understand here that learning how to assess our own energies has a lot to do also with learning the dynamics of our ego. All right? Our ego is linked to our survival. It's linked to preserving, maintaining. Our ego's job is not to make us happy. If we rely on our ego, we're not going to get happy. I can tell you that straight up. We're going to feel familiar. We're going to feel in a comfort zone maybe, but we're not going to get happy. That's not our ego's job. That's our true self's job, to prompt us into the right direction, where there's optimal circumstances, optimal conditions for healing, for love, for joy, for peace. All right. So that's why this is so important, to learn how to assess your own energies, because that makes you become aware when you're actually in a negative, or say, and not necessarily conducive a space for the goals that you have in life. So you see, there is one of these basic dilemmas here, which I quoted over and over again, and that is the number one mistake people make is trying to find low vibratory solutions for high vibratory problems, or goals, if you will. So on day 5 then, day 4 then, we talked about, okay, so it is truth then that I need to align myself. Okay, truth. So the courage to really look at things the way they are. And as a result of that, then to have the courage to let go of some of the things that we're holding on to. And that, of course, then allows us to see things, like Roger, for instance, made here as an example. It allows us to see where things are energy draining for us. It allows us to see that. See, as long as we're in these places, we cannot see or feel that it's actually not healthy for us, or dysfunctional or toxic sometimes. That's why it's so, that's why it does not make sense to judge other people, because for the most part, when people are caught or stuck in lower vibrational energies, they cannot see this for themselves unless, and this is here the focus, of course, of shifting, unless they have the courage to really look at truth and align themselves to the truth of accepting, or seeing, and later then accepting the way things are. And that's then what gives us the courage to change. In the 5th day, then, we talked about how these dynamics are of perception. Like, how come we can't see certain things in certain stage? And I just switched the chart here, how these energetic states, how they affect how we see ourselves and how we see the world. And a lot of times, how we see ourselves and how we see the world determines, where we choose to stay. And that is one of the biggest issues, really, that we have here in being energetically sensitive, is that we have all the symptoms here. We can feel it in our body. We can feel it in our energy. But we don't really know what it means. And so I recommended to look at, how do I see myself? How do I see the world? And that can help me to sort of reverse engineer where I'm at. And then, of course, to do the necessary steps to clear that. And we, on the 5th day, we talked about how the alignment to the heart, how breathing, and so forth can help us to shift our energy and to clear excess mental and emotional energies. We practice this every day here at the end of each session. It was very beautiful, by the way. Go ahead, Roger.
I was just going to say, when we're in all of that, until we start practicing and learning about what's going on with us, my own experience, most of my life, I was just so full of all of that that I didn't know anything I was feeling. I wasn't able to identify what they were. It was just discomfort all over. So it took me a while to started separating things. Once I began to learn to connect to my heart and all, I could start to identify different feelings and such, and then work through a lot of them separately. And then one cool thing about this, though, is that as you go along and learn to identify things, you will find that, and you spend more time with your heart in the upper frequencies there. You can more easily pick out what's energy draining, and it's quite amazing the little things that you'll learn, little tiny things that you would never imagine are draining you. You begin to discover those. So the further you go along, the more you can maintain the heart connection in a good space, because you learn even the finer drains, and you can start to cut those.
And we'll get to this at the end here, because this is really where you guys can apply your energetic sensitivity. If you haven't figured this out by now, the reason why you're energetically sensitive is because you can. Is because that enables you to feel all those subtle shifts and to do something about it as it occurs, as you go. It's a good thing. You just need to learn the language of that. That's all there is to it. So in that respect, we went further into like, okay, so once I've done this step and I realize where I'm at, and I'm moving into truth, and I'm looking at things how they are, and I'm really making an effort now. I have this courage and I want to be hopeful. How can I hold higher states? What do I do when things come in from the outside, like negative people around me or people angry at me? We had some really cool examples here that people were sharing. How can I hold my higher vibrational states? And of course, with this question, which is a huge question, I mean, here at transCODES, that's what all our modalities, all our services, including our forum community, what all this is about. How can I hold this? All right, so we focus on what we want, not what we don't want. We focus on what we want and how we can maintain that. And in the show, what we learned here on the 6th day was, for one, of course, to learn, to really see that how other people sometimes are stuck here, and how it's not our job to compensate for that, or to enable that, or to absorb that, to take that on as ours. And one of the things that we need for that is trust. Trust to really go in and allow ourselves here. This is where we're at here. Like these errors, these upward errors are the things that we need to transcend those states. The trust to really stay within yourself, stay within your courage, stay within your truth. All right, here at this level, that's really all we can do, because we are not stable yet. We're still fluctuating back and forth, all right? And that's a normal part of the process. So most of us are here in this area here, okay? So, and our big challenge is fluctuating, maybe through collective energies, maybe through people around us, relationships that we have, or unresolved inner or outer conflicts. But that's part of the journey, and we need to learn how to accept that and trust in our inner guidance. On day 6, then, we talked about the deeper dynamics of energetic absorption and how it comes that so many of us feel like a doormat for others. And even though we have good intentions and try to help, how it comes that we tend to absorb things, and then we go home with it, and we try to help someone that was in a low space, and they feel better, and we feel like crap.
They just
Right?
handed you the suitcase.
Hmm. So there's an explanation for that, as far as the energetic dynamics is concerned. And I pointed out, this was maybe a little difficult to swallow there at this moment. I pointed out that this has to do with our specialness in them. It's a projection that we do. Like, I can help you, I can save you, I can fix you. But when we project something like that out, then we need to understand that we also ask for it. We ask for people to project their stuff onto us, and that leads to absorption. So that's what we talked about on the seventh day. On the eighth day, then, we talked about unconscious patterns. And that's really interesting, and I can't even stretch that enough. I mean, even someone like myself, every day I discover patterns within myself. There is no end to, my ego's ability to make me blind to see these kind of things. But I'm not afraid of looking at them. So patterns are things uh, that come out of having to deal with some of these energetic states. Okay, so one big thing that I learned at the beginning of my journey was going back to these. This one here was that I thought I was pretty good. I thought I was always in love. Not the emotion of love, but sort of in that intention. And when I first looked at assessing my energies, I found out, well, heck no. The world to me looks threatening, and I'm reacting defensively for the most part. So I was actually caught in fear and anger, even though I thought I was like up here. Okay, and that was a huge insight for me. And really also the beginning of understanding the difficulties of this journey, which has to do with perception, the way we perceive things. And so when we talked about patterns, we illuminated some of these things that we do in order to cope, right? So let's say there were some things in my childhood. There's things in anybody's childhood, that and that created this view in me that the world is hostile, right? And so I created coping mechanisms very early in my life that made me sort of more on the offensive side of things, always feeling like I had to fight for myself. Okay, that's a pattern. That does not a pattern that is based on a certain way I perceive the world, and the way I perceived the world was from a lower vibrational state, and that really hit me hard. There, I realized that the way we deal with things does not depend on what happens to us. It depends on how we see what happens to us. Today, if somebody attacks me, I'm here in these states for the most part, not always, but for the most part. Today, if somebody attacks me, I can see, the pain that they have and the defensiveness that they have, and I have forgiveness for that. I have compassion for that. It doesn't bother me. I don't feel attacked. I don't have to react to it. I don't have to go here into this place. All right? Because I'm centered in my heart. All right? So this is what this can do for us. Then the next day, on day, what is that now?
7,
9.
9 already.
No, actually, that's day 10 already. We talked about energetic triggers. What can trigger that in us? To become aware of what these little things are that can get us into, like, say, these really momentary shifts of our energy where we feel good one moment and then, bam, we're like in this total anger mode or in this total anxiety mode.
I have an example.
Yeah, please.
In my own experience, I had very low self-worth. And anytime anyone spoke out or did anything that seemed to be a judgment toward me, or tried to get me to do something that would get me into a situation where I might be judged. In the first case, I would probably go into attack mode. In the
Mm-hmm.
second case, I would run away. I would just escape the situation to avoid it.
Right. So avoidance can also be a coping mechanism. There's many different um, uh, uh, cycles that we have, and they're very individual to us. All right. So not everybody goes into attack. Not everybody goes into control. All right. Many people also go into avoidance, denial, wanting to run away. So here again, the overall context is that our ego is bound to our lower developed part of the brain, the amygdala, which is really just there to uh, allow us to respond to an immediate threat, like say a lion trying to eat us. All right, and so it really only has these three different ways of responding, and that is fight, flight, or freeze. And this is really what our ego binds us to. So our coping mechanisms and the patterns and the cycles that we have, like say, whether we want to react more like with running away, withdrawing, victimhood, and so forth, or attack and deflection, or whether we just sort of freeze and stay in our pain. That's something that we develop, through the circumstances in our lives. But the important part that we learned on that day was how these cycles are, they're almost like knee-jerk things, knee-jerk reactions. They're hardwired in our system. Okay,
You don't even recognize them coming. You're there like instantly. It's quite amazing,
right.
actually.
And here I want to really sort of put out the connection that there is the link with addictions, with all our addictions, and ultimately, of course, the addiction to our ego, which is the source of all our lower vibratory cycles. Right? There are different causes for some of the addictions that we have, be it substance or behavior addictions. It doesn't matter. Any type of cycle that we have, pain cycle, like say, we suck things up, we suck things up, we suck things up, then we explode, we can't hold it anymore, we attack everything, and I'm sick and tired of this, and blah, blah, blah. Then we feel guilty about what we did, and then we go back into our pain until we can't hold it anymore, and so forth. There's no solution to this. There is no growth. There is no evolution in that. So this is the nature of a cycle, is that it keeps us sort of stuck in a pattern, in the same pattern over and over again. And of course, there's so much more to this. So we could only scratch the surface on all of these things here, but that's sort of the overall context in which we all find ourselves, right? And so on the 11th day, then yesterday we talked about, okay, so how can we change that? We learned individual tools. We learned how to breathe into our heart, and I think most of you experienced the immediate clearing effect of just breathing through the heart, as we do here at the end of each show with the I am breathing. All right, so those are cool tools, and of course there's a lot of other things that we can do. And basically, that's what we do here at transCODES, teaching people these tools. But yesterday, the focus was mostly on, all right, then, how can we create a sort of an upward spiral? How can we create a positive shift? All right, how can we get into expansion rather than staying stuck in contraction? And there I shared that a lot of it has to do with alignment. A lot of it has to do with the trust in our higher power, which is, of course, our heart here and the gateway to an even higher power than that, right? The inner higher power. And I shared how it's not really about the content of where we want to be. So it's not the what that we need to be concerned about, it's the how. All right then. And so we talked about how can we create better conditions for this potential that we all have to fully unfold. And there was an article I was referring to that I wrote called 5 Things You Can Do to Turn Your Resolutions into Solutions. And there is an analogy in there. And the analogy is that of a sunflower. A sunflower seed can be buried in the earth for hundreds of years without ever changing until there's just that right temperature, the right amount of water, and the right amount of sunlight for it to cue its unfoldment. And as these conditions that this sunflower needs, as these conditions are met, that 100-year-old ugly sunflower seed turns into a beautiful sunflower. And this is who you guys are. You have all the information, all the guidance, everything that you need to unfold your potential in you already. You just need to get to that place where you can access that. And that place is here in your heart. From here on, it's easy. It's easy to express beauty, love, gratitude, and so forth, because you can feel it in your heart at all times. The challenge is here, of course, when we feel stuck. So to make this first step to decouple from the collective karma. This is collective karma here, guys. Our ego is bound to collective karma. All right? This is when we make that one step, that courageous step to say, okay, I'm doing something differently here. I'm following my heart. I'm following my truth. And then here in these transitory states, we're still a bit vulnerable because we have these patterns still in us, and they can pull us back down. And we just have to continually work on this, improve our understanding of that, and practice holding our higher vibratory states until we get to this place where we can feel our heart at all times, not just occasionally, but at all times. And then it becomes easy, because then we hear our true inner voice louder than we hear our critical inner voice. It tells us all these nasty things. We should have, and why didn't we see this earlier, and and all the self beat up and so forth. Yes, letting go of right and wrong. That's it. Those are all things that are tied to the collective dualism. So just to put this into perspective, because we didn't really talk a lot about karma here in the last couple of these last 10 days. This threshold here is the threshold of the collective karma. If you can get past that, you're on the way to give yourself the freedom to express yourself. This threshold here is the threshold of your personal karma. That's why this is so liberating up here. Okay, and this has nothing to do with being a good person or anything like that, or being enlightened. This is something that we all carry in us. It's our consciousness that allows us to go there. Each and every one of us. There is no limitation to that. So in that sense, before we, and again, please share. There's a lot of comments here, and you guys are all spot on. Okay, I mean, there's, taking responsibility for becoming real and stay humble, not to go into specialness. Absolutely. trusting in our soul. We can all hear that call from our soul. Have you had enough yet? And yeah, that's a very good point. Because a lot of us are in pain, and the pain that we have, not the physical pain, but the pain that we have is because we're not listening to our soul, right? So these are just to give you an idea of some of the cool comments that are coming in here. But here I want to share something a little lighter and give you guys all a heads up, like of what this what a typical journey of an awakening person looks like, of an awakening consciousness looks like. We are in this situation and we think everything is okay. We live our TikTok life, we have our job, our family, whatever, our partnership. And we're like, I'm okay, I think. And somehow we get this inner prompting, well, somehow, we don't fit in, things don't feel right. We're asking ourselves, like, what's going on here? Like, why, how come this doesn't feel right? And then, of course, comes that phase where we're asking ourselves, well, why me? Why is it always me? Why? And you can see here that this has to do with the perception of ourselves and the world. And it goes in line with that. Then comes the inside. I know why. The world is bad. All people are bad. There is darkness out there, and they're out there to get me. That's where a lot of people get stuck, by the way. Then, of course, if we kind of like see through this after a couple of years, we're like, yeah, well, maybe it's not all that. Maybe it's not that all people are bad. Why didn't I see this earlier? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm bad. Oh my God, I'm so bad. That's where the other half of the people get stuck for a couple of years. And then comes the truth level, guys. And then something happens here with people, with all of us. And here, of course, I've only used these expressive phrases. It comes like, oh, wow. There's a world in there, in me, that I had no clue. And I don't need any substances. I don't need any partners. I don't need any circumstances to get there. This is in me. Wow. And so we get these glimpses of what it could be, what it could feel like. And then comes a humbleness, a gratitude, where we realize, oh my God, this has always been in me. And I can see this now. And it's okay, all the other things that I used to think. I just couldn't see this before. Thank you. And then in these higher states, where I said, once you get past your own karma, and then you realize how beautiful this experience is, and how much choice you have. And that then, the I am, and you can see this in a lot of spiritual teachings and so forth. This is the realization that divinity is in you. And that's not just a spiritual concept, guys. There is a moment on your journey, it may be a place that you can end up living in, where you realize that you are the co-creator and creator of your life's journey. And that is when you can feel the I am. That's not just thinking the I am, that's feeling it, being it, becoming it.
It became so clear, Jona, during our recent marathon, how the lower states are simply a result of what we think we are according to what our ego tells us. That's our ego identity down there. And in order to move to the higher states, we have to be willing to release that. And it's almost like can feel like a death at times, because that's what we're used to identifying ourselves as. It's all we know. So
well, and that's exactly that's exactly the core of all our guys' journey to
Right.
expand our consciousness, is to understand that our ego is programmed. We're using these words on purpose because that's how it really is programmed to believe that if we move out of our ego's comfort zone, that we're going to die.
Yes.
That is the end of everything.
That was clearly felt in those sessions. The
And well,
fear
you
of
know,
that death.
well, and we're talking about, of course, a sort of virtual death here. We're not talking about a physical death, but it will feel like a physical death. You know, maybe, Roger, when you send the email this morning that you shared here with us, there was probably a little bit of that in there too, in that anxiety to send that email, to hit that send button.
Yes.
To overcome this, oh my God, you know,
But
like what.
yeah, I just went ahead and pushed the button, right? I've learned to do that. It's kind of like the skydiving picture there. That was a good practice in how we can pass through things. That was a couple of years ago, maybe a little even prior to that. Jona recommended that I try skydiving to overcome fears, and it was quite amazing. I always had a fear of heights, first of all, so I'm up in this airplane, 13,000 feet in the air, and they open up the whole side of it. I'm standing there looking down, and there's nothing below me. And I'm strapped to somebody that's got total control over me now. I've had to let go of everything, and I have to feel all the fear. And you go into the free fall, and you learn to let that all flow through you. And it's total surrender. And that process, what I learned through that has allowed me to move through so many things in the same fashion. It's just a matter of, and now I'm even better at it because I know more about connecting to my heart and being in the upper frequencies there.
Just to contextualize this a bit more with the skydiving, of course, I wouldn't recommend everybody to go skydiving, but I have to say, from my own personal experience, that this is a very good practice in anchoring our spiritual journey into the physical. There are some things, you know, if we just see them as mental, theoretical concepts, that never really get to that point where they have this meaning for us to give us the courage to overcome our fears. Skydiving is one of those things that we can do, and there's a lot of things, you know, I would love to hear from you if you have other activities that you can recommend that can really help a person to overcome fear and to feel what surrender feels like in your body. But if we never anchor surrender in our body, it's very difficult to recall that. I would really recommend to find these things in your life, because when you are in a situation where you feel like you need to surrender, where you get that inner prompting, it can help to having done this in a physical way before, because that's ultimately the densest part of our memory. And if we can recall a physical feeling associated with it, it can really help.
Yes, it doesn't need to be as extreme as skydiving. You can experiment with very simple things. Instead, anything that you're afraid of, choose something minor and just make the choice to stand in it and feel the fear. Don't react to it, and let it pass, let it flow, feel it all. There's nothing to be afraid of with it, right?
And focus
So,
on feeling afterwards.
right.
Focus on the relief and on the feeling that flushes through you afterwards. Not as in thrill seeking. That's not what I'm referring to. As in really what it feels like to let go. And all the women here who have born children, I just want to point this out. Giving birth is one of those beautiful gifts that women receive to learn surrender. And if you have children that you bore, physically, and you have a hard time trusting in yourself and your ability to surrender, then remind yourself of this wonderful creation, even if it was painful, even if it was ugly, and all that, but you did it. All right? That's physical anchoring of surrender. And so, talking about all these things here, I want to come back to this one slide that a lot of people really liked, that was like, okay, well, so how do we apply? Well, one of the things that we recommend here at transCODES is for people to really embrace, that like you just said, Roger, overcoming fears, overcoming the ego. And actually, you can make it a spiritual practice to tickle your ego, to just, move into this feeling, like where you feel resistance, and practice how to overcome inner resistance.
I'm learning, Jona, that it seems to materialize until I do pass through it. It's going to materialize in front of my face constantly until I deal with it. It's like I
Right.
create it. Because it's within me, I create the situation to allow me to overcome it. And it'll continually return until I do. So that's rather interesting. I've just realized that recently.
And there is a huge energetic power in exposing ourselves to that voluntarily, as opposed to being forced.
It's interesting too. A lot of my life was lived not being part of the life experience, is like always an observer. And it's because of all of those things. You just avoid everything, and pretty soon you're not a part of anything. You have no intimacy. You're not involved in anything. You just observe in it all. So you
Right.
lose
That's
missing
ultimate
out on
comfort
a lot
zone.
of things.
It's
There's
ultimate comfort zone. There's no risk,
yes,
no unknowns. Everything's under control. Everything's in routine.
but
You're all
there's an
good.
underlying pain that I've carried much of my life that I've missed out on it all because it's in that interaction. The being participating in life is where all so much joy and stuff, pain also, but joy comes from that interaction.
Yes. So, what is the big insight here from dealing with energies on a day-to-day basis, dealing with our energetic sensitivity, dealing with our ups and downs, dealing with our fears, with our comfort zone? What is the conclusion, or sort of the recipe here for, like, say, applying this to the new year? It's accepting that our journey is a constant evolution, a constant shift and adjustment, and accepting that it's not about perfectionism, it's not about being in this perfect place or being somebody, for that matter. Embracing every crisis, every challenge as a new opportunity for a personal growth, for a personal healing process. And in that way, because I know a lot of people here are also very concerned about the collective, about how, where the earth, the planet is going and so forth. In that way, we are contributing to collective healing. Yes, to accept that you're going through it and surrender to it. I'm reading you guys' comment. Step forward and embrace everything with the tools you have. And one thing that came out of the energy session, the grace manifestation transmission that we had today, was remember that the sun is always there, even on a cloudy day or in a dark night of the soul for that matter. Just because you can't feel your light doesn't mean you don't have one. Doesn't mean it's not there. It just means that you need to remind yourself of its presence, that you need to realign to it, refocus, shift, to remember your light, because that's always there. So when it comes now to, and we will be going over time here today because it's our last session, and I want to honor, your guys' comments and all of the things that came through here in these last 11 sessions. When it comes now to applying this, all right, there were lots of questions that we could not answer in the last days, only because we kind of needed this foundation first. We needed to go through some of the fundamentals here, some of the basics of understanding these deeper energetic concepts. And these questions had a lot to do with like, okay, here's my predicament. I want to start a new business, but I don't have enough money. I want to start a new relationship, but I'm afraid that I'll fall into the same patterns. I want to move, but I don't know where to. I want to change the way I work. I want to change the employer, or I want to change the integrity level that I have around me. All right, there was a lot of these questions that came in throughout these last 12 days where people asked, what should I do? What should I do when I find myself in a predicament? I want to start a new business. I want to start something new, but I don't have the money for it. What would you guys recommend from everything that you've learned here and in your own journey? Okay. Brian, I'm going to put you on the line. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Jona.
Good to hear your voice. Thank you
Hi,
for
Roger.
sharing, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Well, actually, what I was going to share about was a little bit earlier about surrender. A couple days ago, and actually I need to thank Roger for this. We had a Heart Warrior webinar after the holiday webinar Friday evening, I believe it was. And I was having a difficult time. I was out of sorts from doing the Sofia Marathon last week. And Roger brought up a point about when stuff comes up for you, he learned over time just to surrender to it. It's easier than trying to figure it all out. And because that's where I was definitely, I was just dazed and confused and trying to figure out everything that was coming up with me. And I actively applied that today at the manifestation transmission. And I was able to easily get into my heart center and maintain it for a while. But before I knew it, little scenarios were popping up, little scenes in my head. And they didn't go on for long, though, before I noticed them. But instead of wondering, well, why am I thinking about this? Or how come this came up or whatever? I just accepted the fact that, well, they came up. I surrendered to it. And I replugged into my heart center again. And that happened a number of times today. I think percentage-wise, I like to think maybe I was able to stay in my heart center about 60% of the time during the manifestation transmission this afternoon. But those other times that things kept coming up, I just kept going back to what we discussed Friday night about surrender. And I just surrendered to them. And, the collective society's definition of surrender and the consequences of surrender are way different than what we're talking about here.
Right.
Yes.
That's actually a good point you're bringing up there, Brian. Right?
Yeah, because the surrender the collective way is like, you think it's like an act of defeat, and it means you're weak.
Exactly. Succumbing.
And you've given up, and you've lost and you failed and all that stuff. And if you push through that and you totally just, and also surrender also means just accept it. And so that doesn't really have a negative vibe to it, just accepting something. You accept it for what it is without attaching any judgment to it. And I was able to do that. And what I found on the other side was peace. I mean, it was like, okay, I surrendered, I acknowledged it. I did it without beating myself up over it or judging it or making it bad or wrong or attaching any kind of dualism to it. And
that's where one of our greatest powers is within the choice, the surrender in the form that we use it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it really is. And I know I've had glimpses of that in the past, but today I consciously
Really
used that choice. Yeah, I really applied it. So
that's great.
Yeah, I thank you for bringing that up Friday night, Roger. Really,
I guess it came up for you.
Yeah.
That's very cool, Brian. Thank you for sharing this. I want to make a little remark here on something that you said, probably unconsciously. You said a few times, trying to figure things out.
Uh-huh.
That's just the choice of words. And this is something that came across my own journey many, many times. Trying to figure things out is bound to here.
Right.
And a little bit here. So when we're trying to understand things, we're trying to figure things out, okay? And this is where it shifts here. In these upper levels here, it's not about trying to figure things out anymore. It's about trying to feel things out. And that's the shift here between trying to like analyze, get into the content of things, into the detail and why and so forth. And there's a place for that on our journey. But then at some point it shifts into trying to feel things out rather than trying to figure things out. And that's
where it gets interesting.
That's what you just described, Brian.
Yes, it's really, it's like two different meanings to the word understanding there. To understanding level 7 there on the graphs as opposed to figuring things out. Because normally you would think figuring things out means trying to understand. But it's down there in the lower spectrum there of ego land. Understanding takes a whole different meaning when you get up there in 7. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's, here again, shows us how things can shift with our energetic stance, with our energetic state. See, the word understanding becomes a different meaning here. The word surrender gets a different meaning here. Even the word forgiveness gets a different meaning here.
I was just going to say there's a lot of words there that have different meanings once you, once your energy changes. Yeah.
In a state here of shame and blame and guilt, forgiveness is something that we see as that needs to be bestowed upon us from the outside, and it's something that we either deserve or don't deserve. For the most part, we think we don't deserve it. So that's, sort of like how we see forgiveness down here. Whereas here, it's a state of being. It has nothing to do with a givingness. It's a choice, a lifestyle choice. And it's something that I can feel, that I have in me. So I don't really need anybody else to forgive me. Of course, on the way to that place, there will be things that we find that we need to clean up, maybe with some people, where we do have to make good and where we can make amends. And that's very helpful for this process. But once we're here, we understand that forgiveness is something that we have in us.
Yes, I often explain it as a resonance. We simply align to the people, places, and things involved that we're having issues with. They become totally irrelevant. You just reach a state of forgiveness and everything is let go. It's really cool.
Same with humbleness. These are all resonances, guys, here, that healing resonances, okay? These upward airs. Same with humbleness. See, when we're in this state here of control and sort of deflection and anger and sort of humbleness feels like humiliation. Here we feel humiliated. Here we feel empowered through humbleness. Right, so this is sort of the deeper aspect of our energetic states, just to give an example here. And there's one more question that I have sort of put aside a little bit. It came in the first or second day, and this was about masculine and feminine energies. Marina, if you're listening to this recording right now, I want to thank you for asking this, and I wasn't ignoring your question. I just needed to really prepare this understanding. How does masculine and feminine energy fit into all of this? There is, of course, this up and down sort of that we all experience, that we all have. And that's really sort of where we experience, sort of if we are high in energy or low in energy. But there is more to our energetic balance than just up and down. There is left and right, there's forward and backward. There's many other trajectories from an energetic standpoint. And so the masculine and feminine orientation or balance within us is probably the second most important sort of trajectory or positioning that we need to look at when we look at these things. What does that mean, masculine, feminine energies? The feminine part of us, in all of us, the feminine energies within all of us, are primarily focused on nurturing, giving space and healing, providing abundance and creativity. So you can tell, so the feminine energies are, they're more coming forward here as a power up here in those higher vibratory states. Whereas masculine energies, and again, I want to point this out, there is no judgment to this. Masculine energies are more linked to protection, provision, directedness, fixing things, solving things.
Focus, action.
Focus, action, control. They're more linked here to lower vibratory states. This doesn't mean that all men are low and all women are high. This has nothing to do with that. That would be part of collective dualism, to bring it into this good or bad type of cookie cutter thinking. What this means is that the balance of masculine and feminine energies is, of course, in bringing all of this within us together into harmony. Okay, so if we feel like, for instance, we all have these phases in life where we need to access our masculine energies a bit more. We need to get things done, all right? We have projects to do, we have children to raise, we have problems to solve, all right? Then it's natural that we tend more towards the directiveness of masculine energies. But if we go into these places or into these states for too long, then there's a danger that we get pulled into the downward spiral. On the other hand, if we are just sort of aligning our energy to joy and bliss and beauty with no foundation, we never get anything done. We ride our unicorns down our rainbow waterfalls, but we never get anything done. So you see, there is a depth to that. We cannot really arrive here and hold these spaces without a proper foundation. And this foundation can be found in the harmony of both our masculine and feminine aspects. So to anyone who has goals or resolutions here for 2017, my recommendation is connect with both these aspects. Connect with your heart, connect with your inspiration, with your creativity, with your beauty, and connect with your masculine part that allows you to get things done. If you find yourself in a predicament or at an impotence where, like say, you want to start something new but you don't have the money for it, align your energy to higher vibrational states that allow you to come up with a creativity that provides you with new solutions that your ego, the control mechanisms here could have never come up with. So that you have the right idea, that you're at the right place, you meet the right people at the right time, just when you need them. This is what it means to tune into your abundance. And just to round this up here, how masculine and feminine, or the harmony of masculine and feminine energies relates to our ability to manifest abundance, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, is very clear. We can only manifest this if we can allow both our masculine and feminine to exist in harmony, in unity within us. And again, sometimes it's a bit of a seesaw. Sometimes it's a bit of a pendulum. All right? But the effort that we need to make, just as we do this up and down kind of effort, is the left and right kind of effort. Like, am I more, on my masculine side right now, do I need to invite feminine resonances, feminine energies back in? Am I too far out on the feminine side right now? Do I need to invite masculine energies in? So there's a lot of comments here.
Good.
So I don't even know where to begin. You all like right on target here. Yes, surrender, stay in the heart, and feel good about everything which creates the attraction to what your heart is aligned to. And things will show up. Manifesting is backwards. Feeling it's already there and walking into what it feels like. And then in everyday life, staying in the heart, and it will come. Balance. Balance is very important for abundance. Yes, and to really apply this to all areas of our life. Exercise, diet, family, fun. Fun is a really important part too. Playfulness. All right. There are many other levels, so to speak, of this journey. All right, where we need to learn what true balance and inner peace really means. Okay. We just talked about the energetic basics here. But when it comes to like really trying to manifest a life here in these higher vibrational states and to hold them, the number one rule is be present in the moment. If your energy goes too far in the future, you will be tormented by fears. If your energy is too far in the past, you'll be tormented by the pain of the past. Being in the present is the gateway to your heart, and your heart is your gateway to your higher power. Okay?
Yes, I talked about that the other day. Excuse me, just one quick comment. But it was coming in today again. If you have trouble pulling back into the moment, myself, I just go to focus on the sensations of my body and just allow all thoughts to go. And it brings me right into now and where I'm able to get back in my heart again.
Yes, and someone else here is sharing the health or the physical part. is a block for her. I want to point out, we kind of skipped over this a little bit as far as like making healthy choices in the physical, you know, through diet and so forth. But ultimately, this is something that I was really trying to get across, is that any type of negativity, any type of lower vibrational energy, okay, can be expressed in the physical at all levels, mental, emotional, and so forth. So our job really to utilize all this knowledge here, all this what we learned here, is to apply this to every single thought, every single sentiment, every single feeling we have, even our critical inner thoughts, and to assess them based on their energy level, including food, including activities. Is this food, is this thought, is this activity, is this inner sentiment, is this based on my goal? Is this based on love, on my heart? Or is that based on my ego? Or is that based on some pain cycle that I have, or coping mechanism? This is what choice means. And so you may still be in a place where you sometimes beat yourself up over your choices. That's because you're still here in this transition. But you got to understand one thing. You have the choice, and that is way more than most people here on this planet, because you can see it. And this is really sort of the ultimate objective of this entire webinar series here, is to empower us and to see that our energetic sensitivity is not a curse, that it is something evolving in us that allows us to see all that. It gives us a choice.
It's our greatest power, the choice. Always there.
So that's really sort of the wrap up of all these things that we talked about. And I have a special guest here next to me, whose appearance we've been waiting for many days.
Jeff?
Right next to me is Jeff Casper.
Hello, everybody.
Jeff.
Very well known for energetic clearings and for his healing and metaphysical teaching. Jeff, you didn't have the opportunity to join in here in these days because, of course, while I was doing this, somebody else had to do other things, that happened to be you. So would you like to share your wisdom here with us just for a couple of minutes from all the things that we talked about, going through like the entire range of what it means to be energetically sensitive, what it means to identify energies, to live with them, and to apply this into your daily life. What would you say from knowing everything that you know? Come on, give us a nutshell.
The director out.
Yeah, the short. Give us the short version of these 12 days.
I think the things you talked about, all the topics you covered, I've got a chance to listen to a few of the recordings, not all of them, but covered so much. I think the big thing is that.
Can hardly hear you, Jeff.
Oh, sorry. I'm not close enough to the microphone. I apologize. I'm on the other side. Is that better?
Yes, much. Thank you.
Sorry, everybody. Yeah, I think the big thing is that it is about being in the moment. I think you have to really focus and be willing to feel it all, and just allow it to come forward, to embrace feeling, to embrace that knowingness that your heart will get you through it, that no matter what comes forward, as long as you stay in that energy and trust in it, even when things seem crazy, psychotic, you have no idea how it's going to work, you're not sure even it is the right way, but there's something pulling it forward, you stay in it. It will come true. Whatever needs to happen will happen. And whatever the answer needs to be will come forward. It may not be what you expected. It may not be what you kind of wanted. It definitely is not going to be typically what your ego wants, or your mind wants, or your emotions like, all those little payoffs that we have. But as long as you stay centered in that, and you keep going, that's the trick. Keep going, and you keep centering. And I know Yona and Roger talked a lot about choice, and they talked a lot about the willingness to step forward. Those are all the vital things. By willingly agreeing to be in that space, your intention is to be in your heart. By doing that, no matter what comes forward, it will subside. There you go.
One personal
Great,
question.
thank you.
Well,
Can I go? No,
one personal question for you, since we talked about the new energies coming in 2017, you know, maybe shifts that we are feeling within, and not so much resolutions, because one of the big theme here was to move from resolution to solution.
Right.
But are there any things that are coming in for you right now, like as far as shifts or things that you feel empowered, or insights that
You mean about myself or about
for yourself for this year?
I think the biggest thing that happens, or I feel actually, the biggest thing that happens is that the longer you do this, the more confidence builds. So every year, no matter what, you know, because I'm very good at rigid, I'm very good at programming, I'm very good at, you know, step by step. I can do all those things, and it has to be this way and all that. But that's not a spiritual path. It is sometimes. Sometimes you have to be devoted, and sometimes you have to have dedication, and that does require certain processes and all that. But when you really embrace it, all that goes out the window at some point. And then it's a matter of, you know, trusting. And I think the biggest thing that's happening, and I can feel that almost every day changing, is even though I already did trust in my heart, I had things in the way and all that kind of stuff, some of that stuff's kind of gone to the background. So now, I don't know, every week, every month, every day, that seems to grow. So as that happens, you kind of realize what you got to do, period. You know, just say that, it comes forward. So then you just got to go for it. And if you don't, the longer you don't do it, the more it hurts.
Oh, I love that.
No question about that.
Yeah. So if you don't, you're going to feel it. And at some point, it gets to be so painful that you have to change. And I'm not talking like, you know, knife stabbing wound or something like that in your chest, that feeling, but it gets so uncomfortable that uncomfortableness drives you forward. So if the prompting doesn't,
the pain will.
I really love what you said about the trusting. That's so important. The further along I've come, the trust just comes more naturally now. So you just continue to move forward, trusting that everything's going to work out. You learn that it becomes clearer and clearer that it's going to happen that way. So
yeah, and if you don't, I mean, just if you don't trust it in yourself yet, which I understand, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes things are real hairy, scary, or really freak you out or whatever, and that's fine. If you can't trust in that yet, trust in the fact that you know that the field of the heart, the field of the divine, the field of God, whatever you call higher power, that's your consciousness. That's what registers your mind. That's what registers your emotions, not your mind. So if you know that there's something past the energy, or the energy of the emotions, the energy of your mind, which actually has also been documented quite well in various literature, then trust in that. Use that for a while as a bridge until you feel it. I know it's a bit of a blind faith game, but it does work.
So like, fake it till you make it.
yeah, cool.
Yes.
Trust, more trust. It's all what it's all about.
Well, there was a really good little video. It was about a week ago or so, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But the import did. Denzel Washington, an actor, I really like him as an actor. He talked about some of the crap that the news stations are doing nowadays, and he was dead on right. He talked about it's not so much about being right anymore; it's about being first, even if it's wrong.
Yeah.
And he talked about, you know, we can get good at anything. We can even get good at BS. So whatever you focus on, you're going to get good at. So focus on trust. Focus on that, you know what, it's not there. I can't quite feel it yet, but I from what I can feel from all the people you've listened to about higher power, about the divine, about 12 steps, about, it doesn't matter, whatever you got it from, you know, trust in it. See what happens. Do that for a year and see what happens. I think you'll like it.
Cool.
One last thing from you, Jeff. Um,
3 questions.
since people must be getting tired of my voice, I mean,
He's
I
really
can't
hammering you today.
what would you recommend people who really want to make changes and who are on the verge of shifting who are in relationships? What would you recommend here to focus on, for people that want to do this together with their partner? What are the things that are important to look at?
You mean if they're both in it together?
If they're both in it together, or if they run into the issue that the other one may not be, or maybe we're afraid of sort of opening our relationship up for that. That is actually quite often the case. But just in regards to relationships and this particular journey here that we have been discussing, what are your lessons? What are your big things that you would love to share with the audience here?
Great question. I believe that the biggest thing you can do, besides living in your own heart, to have that as your intention, is make a note. And if the other part or the person involved doesn't want to, that's their choice too. That doesn't mean that the relationship's over with by any means. But if you have your intention there that, hey, this is really what I want to do, at first it may freak them out. It may, maybe like, oh my gosh, they're gonna really go for this stuff, and all the fake stuff's gonna fall away, and they may not even have a clue of what that is. They may even jump in with you at first and then get freaked out, just like we all do. But if that's your intention, let it be known politely. And not that they have to do anything. They don't have to come along on that part. They can be part of it. They can be not part of it. They can come along half of the way, not all the way. It doesn't matter. As long as they know where you're at and where you stand, whatever happens will happen.
Yes, because when we go or move into our own truth, then probably one of the biggest insights we have in regards to relationship is that we need to respect the other person's truth as well, even if it is a different kind of truth.
Yes.
And we've illuminated how this can come about, how we can have different versions of truth, different kind of perceptions, because they have to do with the energetic state that we're in. So sometimes accepting truth and surrendering to that also means to accept that our partner or our loved ones, this can also apply to our parents or our children, to anyone we love, that they're just at a different energetic place at this moment. But this doesn't mean they cannot evolve out of that. It just means that everybody has a different timeline. And the more we come to respect ourselves, the more we become to respect others on their journey as well. It's not our job to convince anyone. It's not our job to heal anyone, for that matter. Our job is to be as true to ourselves as we can be. Because we can. So here, just a little summary of what can we do, to really go into the practical application. And this is very brief here, but most of you are already familiar with this. Drink more water. That's actually a really good recommendation for anybody. It doesn't really matter, even if you think you drink a lot of water, drink more. All right, being energetically sensitive means that you need more water for energetic flow. And focus on modalities and activities that can support your body to energetically detox. In other words, help your body to get rid of the old stuff. All right? Activities, modalities, foods, of course, as well. But it's also activities, behavioral patterns. All right? Changing things up, going more into nature. Maybe getting a pet, that allows you to tune into natural things a bit more. Growing plants. Aligning yourself to the beauty that is around you. Okay, there's many, many different things. Number 2, breathe. Utilize your innate clearing abilities and practice energetic consolidation through centering in your heart. This is what we've been talking about here. And breathing is probably the single most important thing that you can do, consciously breathing. Okay? So here we have the number 1 and number 2 tip is drink water and breathe. Haha, they're free. Accept that life is a constant adjustment process. Get better at trusting in your inner guidance. Let go of expectations of, well, I have to have those circumstances first before I can do that. No, that's an ego trick. Remove negative energies as you go. Don't beat yourself up for having been pulled into a lower state. It's normal. Just build that confidence that you can handle it as it occurs. So you deal with it as it occurs. So if it's going to rain, oh well. Then if it's going to rain, you're going to come up with a solution. Maybe take an umbrella or put a raincoat on. Or not, if it's okay for you to get wet. But you're going to deal with it as it arrives. You don't have to anticipate. You don't have to control. Align your energy to higher vibratory levels for support. Support is in you. But you need to remember to align yourself to that. Ask your inner guidance to show you a way. Ask for truth to be revealed, for things to be healed, for the things that need to be healed, and for things to leave you, to be released, that are no longer needed. Ask for that. Ask your higher power. The more you ask your higher power, the more it will respond. Discern if a food, an emotion, an activity, or anything else for that matter is energy sustaining or energy draining. If this is all you take home from here, all right, you've learned a very important thing, and that is discernment. You can energize this discernment, this inner navigator that you have, the truth navigator that you have, by focusing on your heart, focusing on the present moment. And since we've come to the end of the show here, we will do what we always do at the end of the show. We'll focus on our breathing, clear excess mental and emotional energies, and tune into December 2017. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
All right, so I'm not going to go into the details of the I am breathing technique here. I'm just going to do it with you. All right, and then we're going to tune into what does December next year feel like. So kind of like around this time, you know, like right at the end of the year. Okay, so we start with finding our center. Just sort of locating it. It's always good to start with that. Because sometimes our energy can be a little further to the left, or a little further to the right, a little further to forward, backward. So sometimes we just need to like find that center again before we even start. Okay, good. And now as you start breathing in, visualize all your excess mental energies from above, from your upper torso, above your head, around your head, your ears. Today was a lot of stuff around the ears. Visualize all that to be pulled into your heart. And as you breathe out, you just release all of that sideways on that level of your heart. You breathe in again. Now visualize all your emotional energies that are stored in the lower half of your torso, and your legs and your feet, below your feet, to be pulled into your heart. You hold it there for a second, and you breathe out sideways for as long as you can. And now we combine both. You breathe in and visualize how all excess emotional and mental energies are being pulled into our heart center like a big vacuum cleaner. Hold it and breathe out, releasing all these energies from your body, from your energy body. And again, breathing, hold it, breathe out. And if you want to add the last part of the I am breathing technique here at this point, then this is kind of like what it sounds like. You say the words I as you breathe in, you say the words am as you breathe out, which helps to physically anchor this type of clearing and centering technique. As you breathe in, as you breathe out. As you breathe in, as you breathe out. Very nice. Now move your attention to time, and we've already gone through the calendar here: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and November 2017. We've now arrived at December 2017. Feel into this time. Do you hear anything? Do you taste anything? Do you feel anything in your body? If you tune into December next year, what comes up first? Without thinking, interpreting, seeking, comes forward to you. What does it feel like to you? Okay, so December feels like it has a little bit of overlay. Stillness, yeah. I mentioned overlay because there's, it's almost like there's a shroud or veil around it. And typically this happens when there's a lot of sort of collective commotion. This doesn't mean anything positive or negative. It just means there's a lot of stuff going on. And that can create a little bit of a veil that makes it difficult to pierce through. So just stay with it. Just because you're not getting something right away doesn't mean there's nothing there. Blues. Yes, it looks like a big pyramid tent. Yeah, the tent, yeah, That's what I meant with the shroud or the overlay. Purples. Is there any particular, like, taste or smells to it? I feel strong pain in my neck all of a sudden.
Oh, I just had pain too. I also have a green tube coming from my heart going into like a void, black void. I haven't felt out what that means.
Yeah, I felt a black void too. Okay, so keep going, guys. This means we have to like push through a little bit sometimes. But don't try to force it, just stay in it. What do you feel? An emotion.
I feel sadness at the end of the tube.
All right, so there are some people here who feel like there's a collapse of some kind. Collapse in the sense, without going into premature conclusions, it can also mean that this tent, this shroud, this Mayan illusion collapses. Yes, exactly.
My heart is starting to hurt also.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of sadness and there's a little bit of letting go there, but there's also resolution here. Yes, you guys are picking up on that. It's very cool. There's an opening here. But it does feel a little sad. So it does feel like a little bit of grieving, but there's also resolution. Okay, so there's new things coming forward that help to resolve some older conflicts or some older sadness. Most people pick up on the sadness and the grieving.
I don't know if this is relevant. The void was at the left side of the month. I'm looking at it as like a calendar. And immediately when we came in, the yellow and orange came up again on the opposite side, and I remembered that came up. Those colors came up yesterday also, I think, for you, Jona.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a beginning to end of the month change or something.
Yeah, I mean, we've just went through this, so there's always a
Yeah.
little bit of tightness there. Yes, I can feel that too, the tightness, when it comes to the end of things, and we talked about this earlier, how any type of end, just a word, triggers our ego's fear of like, oh my God, everything's going to end, and so we got to be careful when we do this type of precognition to not get caught in our ego, who immediately wants to interpret this as like, oh my God, the world's going to go under. All right, no, this is just not is not what that means. Like, so we need to learn that discipline to pierce through those things and to allow this. See, someone here says there's a dog, like a friendly dog. Okay, so the friendly dogs, what do they bring in? They bring a lot of love and unconditionality.
I had fur myself, and alongside of it, there's some kind of baked good or something that's really drawing my attention. I can smell it, but I can't figure out exactly what it is.
What did
Some
you say?
kind of
Baked good?
like a baked good or something. Yes, like maybe a brownie type thing or something. It's something that's comforting, but I had fur alongside of it earlier, so it may be related to the dog. And
Okay. So maybe the need to go into comfort, and to seek sort of the comfort of home, like, because that's typically, dog and cookies and brownies. Those are homey things. Yes,
yeah,
home. Some people like, yes, like a bun. Yes. So there's this, maybe this really sort of keeping that too when this need comes up for going into our cave, for going into our sanctum. I keep seeing a young girl jumping up and down, clapping, like maybe there's something big that gets resolved. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Feels joyful. Yes, I get that too. All right, I do get the grieving. I do get the challenge here in overcoming fears. But I do get that there's something really sort of new and comforting coming out of that. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, it's really cool when we do this, and I've shared this earlier in the session, and we were going to probably pursue this kind of sort of group channel in the future. It's been an extraordinary experience here to do this with you guys. And again, I'm going to summarize all of this. I'm a bit backtracking right now. There's a lot of session reports that I still need to write before I will be able to get to the forecast for 2017. But it will contain all your advices, visions, and contributions. All right, so this will be a very, very cool project. I'm really looking forward to this. It will probably take me Yes, comfort food and friendly doggy. Yay. I know, right? That's something to look forward to.
I think that girl might have got the brownie. She might have found it the one that was jumping up and down.
Yeah, after all, well, baking is my sanity. That's how I center and balance my energies. So, yeah, that's Jeff's and I's plan B. If everything fails and the world goes under, we're gonna open up a bistro or a baking shop.
People will always be looking for cookies.
Yeah. So, since this is the official end here of dealing with holiday energies, with the end of the year energies, and the approach of new energies, are there any questions or anything that you would like to share here with us before we let you go?
Jona, I just like to say I want to thank you and Roger for doing this, sort of getting through the holidays, because I attended every webinar and I was able to pull something out of every session that I attended to. So I thank you both for doing this, really.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Brian. Appreciate it. And I've enjoyed and learned something out of everyone myself. So it's really nice you attended and
Yes, and
spoke out.
thank you to you as well, Brian. You were one of the people here that had no problem overcoming your fears and sharing, and in many ways you've contributed to the liveliness of this show and for other people to see different perspectives.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you for allowing the space for me to do that, really.
Mm. Yes, and there's a lot of loving notes here, a lot of beautiful thank yous, and how this has been uplifting. Thank you for this. I've learned a lot. This was an amazing experience, really, for Roger and I, if I may speak for you too, Roger.
More ways than you'll know.
Yeah, I mean, we do this all the time, you know. It's not the fact that we do this, but the momentum that was building here and the intimacy too, to a degree, to some of you listeners. And just also for us, of course, the challenges in that, you know, to stay on it at all times, and all the background work and so forth that's involved with that. But this is a cool format, and we may do this at some point in a different context again. You know, I'm really looking forward to this. I've really come to enjoy this here with you, and just being there for questions and comments. That is a wonderful thing that here at transCODES we practice this almost every week, but you know, to do this sort of in public is a very cool experience.
I agree.
Thank you, everybody, for your trust, for your openness, and of course for your gratitude that you're sending our way right now. I'm smiling.
I feel that. Yeah.
Sorry for
Yeah,
not being able to figure out the software, so you can see those comments too. All right,
Next
I
time.
promise I'll get that done next time.
I want to
Yes.
thank Jeff too. Is he still there?
Yes.
Thank you for coming in and sharing all what you did. Very enlightening as always. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I really like laughing with you. I have an advantage. I've been with Jeff in person several times, so his laugh is kind of infectious. I just have the memory of being close to him. So it just kind of automatically triggers. It's really cool.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I hope to be able to do this soon again, and I wish you a wonderful, happy, prosperous, abundant, heart-centered, trusting, surrendering New Year 2017.
Keep
Okay.
it light.
Yay! And lots of fun and lots of joy. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.